It's just going to be a brief introduction to quadratics. We're going to talk about what they are, and we're going to see them in a couple different forms here. And then we're going to talk about how we could graph it and find the vertex, x-intercepts, and y-intercepts. And so quadratics are basically going to be like x times x. So if we have an x squared as the highest power in it, we'll go with that. And the shape of these, when we graph these, they're going to make a shape that looks like this. It's a parabola. And the vertex is a place where something changes direction. X-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. And y-intercept, wherever the y-axis is where it crosses the y-axis. So we've got all those things. And what I want you to notice is, let's talk about x-intercepts. When we cross the x-axis, we have to be like somewhere like here. I'm just going to make a bunch of points here. Notice like this could be like the point, I don't know, 3, 0. And this would be the point 1, 0. And this would be the point maybe negative 1, 0. I hope you're getting the idea. Negative 2, 0, etc. Notice y is always 0. Y has to be 0 on here because, like, think about graphing points. Your x value, you go left, right. Your y value, you go up, down. There's no up-down motion here. So when I go to find my x-intercepts, I know that y is equal to 0. So let me think about that on this equation right here. If I want to find my x-intercepts, y is 0. And if you are feeling good and on track for this course, you know how to solve this. These two things multiplied together give me 0, which means this is equal to 0, or this is equal to 0. So you solve those. So x is negative 3 in this case, x is 1 in this case. So my x-intercepts for this are the points negative 3, 0, and 1, 0. So if I think about that as a graph, there's 1, 0. There's negative 3, 0. Let me just label those. So I know that it's going to go between those 2 points. It's going to cross through those 2 points, my parabola, my shape of this. Now remember, this is basically a machine. So you plug in values, it spits out values. Like when x is negative 3, notice if I plug it into here, I've got negative 3 plus 3 times negative 3 minus 1. That's 0 times negative 4, which is 0. So when I plug negative 3 in for x, when x is negative 3, y is 0. That's what's going on here. Let's talk about that y-intercept now. So y-intercept is where it touches the y-axis. And if you think about any point that's on the y-axis, x has to be 0. It has 0 left-right movement, but it's just all up-down. So this one, x equals 0. So what we can do to get that y-intercept is just plug it in and trust the machine. In other words, let x be 0. So y equals 0 plus 3 times 0 minus 1. We're multiplying here, so 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So our y-intercept then is the point x is 0, y is negative 3. Okay? So we've got that point, 0, negative 3. So we know it's going to do something like this, and it's going to go through here as well. So now what it's got to do is it's got to curve somewhere and start coming back up. And that is the vertex. And so to find that vertex, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rely on the symmetry of the shape. These quadratics are symmetrical. In other words, if I think about a straight up down line through that vertex, it folds up on itself perfectly. Which means that if I have these x-intercepts, the x value of the vertex must be halfway between them. For example, I have this point at negative 1, this x value of negative 1, this x value of negative 3. And the x value of the vertex has to be halfway between those because of the symmetry. So what I could do is I could walk it back, right? I could go back 1, back 1, back 1, back 1. Oh, there it is. It's along this point where x equals negative 1. The other way that you can find that is if you want to find the middle of two numbers, you can average them. Negative 3 plus 1 divided by 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Now notice that's just the x part of the vertex. That just tells me it's left-right motion. I need the y too. I need to know like how high it is. And again, I'm just going to trust the machine for that. Take that -1, plug it in for x. So y equals -1 plus 3 times -1 minus 1. So I've got 2 times -2, which is -4. So my vertex is down at this point when x is -1, y is -4. There it is. That is a really good graph. You don't need to keep those dotted lines. That is a really good sketch of a graph of this quadratic. And notice I've labeled the vertex, the y-intercept, where it intercepts the y-axis, and the x-intercepts. Let's do the same sort of thinking over here. Okay, x-intercepts. That means y equals 0. So, what makes this a 0? -5. What makes this a 0? -3. Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got the points -5, 0. Notice I'm labeling these as points, and the point -3, 0. There's my x-intercepts. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do then is, I could find my vertex next. I could find my y-intercept next. I think I'll find my vertex next. The vertex is going to be halfway between those points. You might just see that it's at -4. If not, add them together, divide by 2. So we get x equals -4. So plug that back into the machine to get the y part of that point. So -4 plus 5 times -4 plus 3. That's 1 times -1, which is -1. So this point right here at -4, -1 is my vertex. Boop, 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 boop. And then I'm going to need my y-intercept. Y-intercept happens when x is 0. So let's see, I've got 5 times 3, 15, way up here at 15. So I'm not going to, since it's a sketch, I'm not going to worry about scaling it, but I'm just going to label it. I'm going to say that as the point 0, 15. And there it is. I'm going to erase some of this so we can take a look at the actual graph here. That is a complete sketch. I've got both my x-intercepts, got my vertex, and I've got my y-intercept. All right, one more like this. Let's see, what makes some zeros here? 0 and -5. Great. There's my x-intercepts. 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -5, 0. What else do I know? I know that if x is 0, 0 times 0 plus 5, that is also 0. This point at 0, 0, notice is both my x-intercept and my y-intercept. Now I've just got to get at that vertex. So what's halfway between 0 and -5? Well, let's see, 0 plus -5 divided by 2, -2.5. So 1, 2, so that's about here. So I've got this x equals -2.5. Great, let me plug it in then for x to get the y value. So I've got -2.5 times 2.5, which is I think it's -6.25. So I've got the point -2.5, -6.25. There we go. I've got my vertex. I've got my x and y intercepts. They're all labeled. There's a good sketch of it.